Hey everybody, it's Daniel. Welcome to beautiful Tres Cantos, by which I mean the outskirts of Tres Cantos. Sorry for the backlight here. Tres Cantos is already the outskirts of Madrid. It's about 30 minutes by train, I guess, from the north of Madrid. And at this point, I'm about 30 minutes outside of Tres Cantos. I'm just kind of exploring a bit today on one of the Pecuarias. The Pecuarias in Madrid are interesting because you have, a lot of them all over the Comunidad de Madrid, and they're protected by these very old laws because originally Madrid was just a sort of place for shepherds to, take their sheep from the north to the south. So a lot of the original streets going through Madrid are made along the old sheep trails, and the old sheep trails, like this one that I'm walking on, are still protected. And yeah, I guess I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on, but for now I'm headed toward a place called Puente de la Marmotta. So we'll see what that's like. You can see I'm walking along this stone wall here. On the other side of the stone wall is El Pardo, which is the king's hunting grounds. Well, it's one of the king's hunting grounds. There's a dog. The current king, Felipe VI, or Philip VI, if you prefer, is not a big hunter, but his father, Juan Carlos I, who we could just call JC, he was a big hunter, and there's all these hunting grounds. I'm sure they've been around for centuries also, just places where the king can go and hang out with his aristocratic buddies and shoot at animals. I was actually kind of a fan of Juan Carlos, who's now retired, but I was kind of a fan of him until it came out that he hunts elephants for fun. There was a photo of him in Botswana or something like that, where he went down and shot elephants as a pastime. And, I kind of like elephants, so I didn't like that very much. But he was old school. Now we've got our new king, who's one of these more modern European monarchs and a bit less, into the old school aristocratic pastimes. Anyway, so that's El Pardo, and I don't know, it's famous. There's a town called El Pardo, which is sort of far from here, but it's on the other side of this hunting ground, and you can go there and you can eat a lot of venison, deer meat, because, that's what's on the other side of this fence. There's a whole lot of these little deer. I believe they're called gamos in Spanish. It's kind of white-tailed deer, I think. And yeah, you can go down there and you can eat all kinds of venison, and it's pretty good. I recommend it. So about what I was talking about before with the sheep and the Pecuarias in Madrid, there's an event that you should go to if you can. It happens once or twice a year. It's called the Trasumanthia, and it's where a lot of shepherds sort of dress up in traditional clothing, and they take their sheep through the center of Madrid. Generally, they would do this to, take their sheep from the north to the south of Spain or whatever, in order to, take their sheep to their summer pastures or their winter pastures, depending on the season. These days, I think they probably do this by truck most of the time, but they do this in Madrid, where they do a symbolic thing. People dress up in their historical sort of outfits, and they pay a symbolic sum of money to the government, and they, this gives them the right to continue using the Vías Pecuarias for another year or something like that. And it's kind of a cool thing because you can just see these flocks of sheep, or herds of sheep perhaps, herds, going through the center of Madrid, through Puerta del Sol and through Plaza Mayor and all of that. So, Trasumanthia. It's a fun time if you have a chance to see it. I believe they do it in March, and then they maybe do it again in October. But if you just Google Trasumanthia Madrid, you'll get it. They've got an official website and all of that. So let's do some vocabulary. I started this video, I had no idea if I was doing a Spanish video or an English video, and I still don't, so let's do both. Let's say Coto de Caza first. That's the hunting grounds, the Coto de Caza. Coto, as far as I know, is just sort of a closed space. So, and caza is from the verb cazar, which is to hunt in English. Then we could talk about un pastor, which is a shepherd. Pastor. You might notice that a pastor is somebody who is in charge of a religious group in English. You could call him a pastor who is in charge of his flock, I believe they might say. But talking about people, you know, same sort of vocabulary for similar situations, I guess. Así que un pastor, a shepherd. You could talk about vías pecuarias, as we have been doing. I think vías pecuarias is really for any sort of hoofed animal. And I think, although you should probably fact check me on this, that pecuaria comes from the same root word as pezuña, which is a hoof. Pezuña. Hoof. So, yeah, that's a little bit of vocabulary related to the great outdoors, especially sheep vocabulary. Here's another one. It's a fun event in September, October here in El Pardo. The deer are in their mating season. It's called La Berea. And, you know, the male deer kind of come out and they make their deer sounds, hoping to attract female deer. It's a cool thing. You can come. There's places in El Pardo where you have like a chain link fence and not the stone wall. So you can go up to the fence and you can see the deer interacting, dating as it were, because deer obviously have deep emotional lives like we do, and they, you know, they fall in love, they get romantic, and they do stuff among the oak trees. It's worth seeing if you're in El Pardo, and afterwards you can go to these restaurants, like I said, and you can eat some of those same deer, which I also recommend you do. I'm on my way, like I said, to Puente de la Marmotta. Marmotta should be something like a groundhog. If you're familiar with the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, the translation in Spanish is El Día de la Marmota. And I have no idea if there are actually groundhogs or marmotas in Spain, but there must be some reason why this bridge is called that, so we'll check it out. Of course, I should mention that this is not one of Madrid's top 10 tourist destinations. I'm just going towards the Puente de la Marmota because a friend told me that it exists, and if I find out that something, you know, exists and it's a 12-kilometer walk from me, I think, well, I'll just walk there and see what happens. So, other places in this area, I might end up later in Colmenar Viejo. Colmenar Viejo is another town in the Madrid community. It's also, you know, not one of anybody's top 10 lists, but it's a fairly large town. Colmenar, if you're interested in the vocabulary, is a beehive. So, you know, why these towns are called these things is a complete mystery, but I know there are some beekeepers around this area, you know, probably with hives. So, Colmenar Viejo. And Tres Cantos, where I'm staying, is a modern sort of town. It's pretty new, and it's, I don't know, it's famous for a couple of reasons, but one is that it's got the wealthiest population of pensioners in all of Spain, because it was kind of designed to have all of these science and engineering companies. It's kind of a, you know, industrial park plus town or whatever. So the people who moved up there were very well paid, and a lot of them are retired now, and they're the best paid pensioners in Spain. So that's another very boring fact that probably only I know. The other thing about Tres Cantos is one of the most famous Spanish rock bands of the recent years, at least. Vetusta Morla are from Tres Cantos. You can hear their music on YouTube, I'm sure. Vetusta Morla. I'm not really sure what that name means, but you know, long story. I met them a couple of times at different parties. We have friends in common, or we had friends in common, you know, 10 or 15 years ago. So yeah, met the Vetusta Morla guys. They're pretty normal people, except one of them who is very high energy, like you would expect rock star type people to be. And yeah, that's Tres Cantos. I don't know, I'm about an hour away from Puente de la Marmotta, so I guess I'll see you there. Man, am I embarrassed. Colmenar isn't a beehive, it's an apiary. I didn't know that word in English even, but it's a place with a lot of beehives. A colmenar. I was thinking about it just after recording, and I thought, no. Colmena is beehive. Colmenar has to be a place with a lot of beehives. And there's a lot of things like that in Spanish, where you have that sort of suffix with, you know, a suffix referring to a place with a lot of something. You've got Olivo, which is the olive tree, and you've got olivar, which is a group of olive trees, a field of olive trees, or something like that. There might be a more specific word in English also. You've got castaño, which is a chestnut tree, and you've got castañar, which is a stand or a forest of chestnut trees, I guess. So different things with the R sort of suffix, or the AR sort of suffix, that turn one thing into a bunch of things, just like colmena and colmenar. Oh, and another one that I almost forgot, even though I'm walking through one, and I have been walking through one for a couple of hours here. Enthinar. Una encina is an oak tree, one of the small oak trees. I think it's a dwarf oak, we might call it in English. And Enthinar is a forest of oak trees. Same suffix to mean a whole bunch of some sort of tree, or I guess agricultural product. Well, here's the bridge. The River Manzanares, the Rio Manzanares, is down below here. The terrain got a lot more rugged about half an hour ago, but the only thing to do at this point is to keep going, I guess. I'm going to try to get to Colmenar. Well, I've got to get to Colmenar, because otherwise I'm just in the middle of nowhere spending the night, which would not be fun. So yeah, I guess I've got about 12 more kilometers to Colmenar, and I'll probably have some steak when I get there. So, see ya soon. Okay, I got over the big hill, and I think I'm out of the rugged part of this walk. I can't see Colmenar yet, but there's a bunch of ranches off here in the distance, and it looks like the terrain is a little bit more agreeable from here on out. So hopefully this will be a little bit easier than I was expecting. Okay, we're making progress here. I've got about 6 more kilometers to Colmenar, I guess. A lot of these landscapes look a lot like, you know, Arizona desert landscapes, I guess. I'm from Arizona, in case you haven't been following along. So this sort of looks like home. You might know that a lot of the spaghetti westerns back in the day were filmed in some part of Spain, usually down in the south, I believe, around Almeria. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly being the most famous example, but I'm sure there were more. Just because you can, you know, make it look like Arizona or New Mexico, sort of Wild West style without too much effort. There's some sheep finally. I was expecting a lot more sheep, I guess, along this route, being a Via Pecuaria and all, but I really haven't seen much of anything. There's a few sheep right back here. There's some cows way off in the distance, but it's been pretty quiet. I've seen about 4 Spanish guys on mountain bikes, and that's about all, plus the flies that have been eating me alive all day long, but that's not hardly worth mentioning. Oh God, I'm covered in flies. This is disgusting. Okay, I just came to the top of the hill here. I can see Tres Cantos. Sorry, I can see Colmenar Viejo straight ahead. Tres Cantos is out towards the right and Madrid is sort of behind me. You can see the 4 towers in Madrid from most places in the Comunidad if the altitude is high enough. So yeah, that's a pretty good walk I've done today. I think it's going to be a bit more than 20 kilometers when all is said and done. So that's that. Next stop, I guess, will be beer and steak in Colmenar Viejo. So thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope you have a great day wherever you are out there in this big, beautiful world of ours. If you're ever in Madrid or Barcelona, let me know, send me a message. I'm happy to meet and have beer and talk about Spain stuff, etc. Nada más por hoy. Hasta la próxima. Bye.